Okay, it's almost 1:30, and so we'll begin the liquor control agenda for today. We have several items on the agenda. I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's a beautiful day. We'll start with agenda item number 1, approve minutes of the May 15th, 2024 regular meeting. And we have those in front of us if there are any changes or corrections. Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, number 2A, the Martini Blue at the Grotto LLC, doing business as Martini Blue, a Class F to be located at 3233 45th Street South. And Steve Sprague will get us started. Steve.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and board members. And Commissioner, I hope that your ambulatory skills are improving every day here.
You know what, Steve? Unfortunately, it's age-related, I believe, and so I do not appreciate any comments about that. But I'm doing the best I can, and a lot of people think I'm a big crybaby, so I'm just trying to suck it up, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, didn't want to bring attention to it, but sorry about that. So Martini Blue at the Grotto. So in the past, the tavern, when they first opened up, they opened up in the Grotto and had I think it was a beer and wine license just in the Grotto. And then eventually the tavern opened up and got its own license for over at the tavern. And so now what we're doing here is switching from the owners of the tavern having two establishments that sit, 10 feet apart to the Jill and Jody, the twin sisters that have Hair Success, will now, since the Grotto is part of, or it's located right in conjunction with Hair Success, they would have their own license. They are aware that this is a food license, and they are aware that they need to sell more food than alcohol. And along with that, they're aware too that there is no seating at the bar. And so they've done some work with their bar structure to make sure that no one can sit at the bar, and drinks are just prepared and brought to the table. So we've gone through the background check and there were no issues with that. I don't know if you have any questions on this one.
Any questions? So is there, they have an existing license already, Steve? And can you explain that just a little bit for us?
Yeah, so it was kind of a partnership between the people that own the tavern, which that ownership group is out of the cities. And when they came up and they were actually building that facility, they started, they moved into the Grotto, which is right next door to the tavern, and ran a restaurant out of that small area. Then when the tavern opened up, then they kept both licenses for a while, and they've just both kind of came to an agreement now that at this point, Hair Success, or as it's called here, Martini Blue at the Grotto, would be able to operate their own business at this point. So.
And so can I ask Steve one more question? So have we had any issues
No.
with the existing, and so there haven't been any issues?
No, there have been no issues with this.
Okay.
I think part of it is that they want to have that opportunity to let somebody have a glass of wine while they're having their nails done or something like that.
Okay.
And so they have their whole Hair Success area as their licensed premise.
Okay.
So the only caveat, the difference here now is that they're going to have to prepare their own food sales. So in the past, they were, it was all based on the Grotto's food sales. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Quick question, Commissioner. So beverage alcohol is served in the chairs while people are having their hair done or their nails done?
I think from what I understanding, and I've never participated in this, but it's more something when you're having your feet done, a pedicure, then your hands are available. If they're doing your nails, it's kind of hard, or even getting your hair done or something, it's kind of hard because,
Okay.
Just
Well,
the way-
The reason I asked, we have a similar license application coming up later, and
Yep.
I have some questions about that and how, well, I'll get into that when we get there. So,
The one thing I will say with Hair Success is, they're big on the spa day, and so people are there for many hours, 4 or 5 hours at a time, and so that's where the food service part comes in, as well as during the time that the tavern has run the grotto. They do a lot of special events, whether it's bridal showers or different things, baby showers, things like that. They rent out that space, and so they also have food sales with that part too. So
well, they certainly have an excellent reputation, at least according to my wife, because there's a lot of money spent over there.
I was going to say, I'm very disappointed that Steve, we would have a video of Steve going there for a relaxing day and could have given us an example of what he was talking about. So
is that something that you're recommending for my mental health here, Commissioner?
I think for our entertainment, we would enjoy that. So. Very good. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2B, Danny and Company LLC, doing business as SHO 23, Class F, located at 1450 25th Street South. Steve.
So Jin is her name, operates Soho 23. She's been operating with a beer and wine license for about a year, I believe. She has a Korean, I don't know if it's like a whiskey or something, but it's an alcohol, a spirit, a Korean spirit that she wants to be able to offer. And so what she's applying for is a step up from the GH to the F. So the rest of her operation will remain the same. Background check was fine, and we've not had any issues with anything going on with the restaurant during the time that she's been open.
Any questions? Otherwise, if we're ready for a motion, anybody willing to make the motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2C, Demeski Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Tailgater Sports Cafe, transfer of Class AB located at 1322 Main Avenue. Steve.
So Doug and David were partners in this business. Doug passed away, I think it's been 2 years ago. From what I understand, there wasn't a will, and so that held up the transfer of the license. And so through this process now, they're finally able to do the transfer. And so instead of being a 50-50 owner, David now will be 100% owner. And so we've gone through the background check, and there were no items of concern.
So Steve, can I ask you a question? And if anybody else has any questions, jump in. But so how does that work? So obviously they were partners. And so in the meantime, then it's just continued to it just continues on until there's a change. Is that?
Yeah, we were aware.
Yep.
I wanted to give him proper time to mourn the loss of his partner because it was kind of a sudden thing. And then I said, okay, now we need to, get this license transferred on. And like I said, there were, due to some legal implications, it took a while to get things cleared up so that he could do this transfer. So.
And so this kind of, we've talked about keeping our, the names of the owners up to date. So this is part of that too as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gets us back to where we need to be. So yeah,
Okay.
back to square one.
Any other comments or questions? I will say Dave Geske and I are fellow Fargo North Spartan classmates, and he played hockey. He's a good
no.
friend of mine. So we'll just leave it at that. But
Well, and I know he really appreciates the work that the city commission did on the noise ordinance to allow them to continue with their Thursday night jam sessions or whatever they call that. But yeah,
very good. I won't go any further than that. What happened in 1979 is going
Should
to stay in
stay there.
1970. Very good. Anybody willing to make the motion?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further comments or questions? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2D, Guadalajara Mexican Restaurant LLC, doing business as Guadalajara Class F, located at 1324 25th Avenue South. Steve?
So this is, I don't know if you saw it in the paper not too long ago, somebody is stepping into the old Cajun Cafe. And what seems to happen a lot in certain situations is that people that are related to each other keep opening new restaurants and stuff. So anyway, there's a tie, although this person is coming from Seattle, but there is a tie, they have relatives here in town. And so Guadalajara is going to open a Mexican restaurant down there at where the old Cajun Cafe was. And it's a Class F, so it's the full alcohol, food sales must exceed alcohol sales. And I think, yeah, the background check, there was a driving without insurance from 2014, but there's nothing that really that would, get a recommendation of denial. It's a recommendation of approval.
Any questions for this? So this is not a food sales where they do not have to meet the 50%,
Yeah, yes, they do.
and so are they aware of that? And
Yes, they are.
Okay, and so the other thing is if you have somebody coming from out of town, I mean, to me, you have to make sure, because sometimes people aren't familiar with that. So would you say you're comfortable with that?
I am comfortable. They also have, we have an accounting firm in town that is handling a lot of these, of different restaurants. And she's pretty well versed in
Okay.
in our liquor laws. And so she's actually representing the next one too, the Mangos one. So she also communicates with the applicants on some of this stuff. Chief and I did talk earlier today about maybe tightening up a little bit on making sure that the people have reviewed their applications rather than just having the accountant fill them out totally and then just signing them. We kind of fell into something with an improper birth date on a different application that we had.
Okay.
So, yep.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Bob?
Yes, Steve, are we following the chief's recommendation to remove Jose from the license?
That's on the next one. We're working on Guadalajara.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, if we're ready for a motion,
So moved.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is E, Mangoes Incorporated, doing business as Mangoes, transfer of Class F from Dos Mangoes located at 2901 Main Avenue, adding an owner. Steve?
So yes, Dos Mangoes is going to switch to Mangoes Inc. But still going to be operated the same as it has for the years that they've been open. They are bringing on an additional owner. And to Bob's question, Jose has been removed from the liquor license. So Jose had a few issues in the background check, and that's where I was also able to communicate with the accountant. And she said she got that squared away in no time. I actually have legal documentation from our written action of the shareholders. And so I feel very comfortable that we've got the right information that we need.
Any other comments or questions about that? Bob?
No?
Okay. In full disclosure, and I don't get paid compensation for recommendations, but this is my favorite Mexican restaurant. Even though I was injured last night, I was still able to go to Mangoes last night and eat. So that's the end of my commentary. And perhaps I should keep some of these to myself, Steve. You just let me know. But
Well, I'll tell you, you're in good company because that's my mother's favorite place too. So we celebrated her 91st birthday there in July. So
we should all be that lucky to be going to Mangoes when we're 91.
yes, there we go.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, are we ready for a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is F, Vault Partners LLP, doing business as Fort Knox. A transfer of a Class Z, adding a new partner, the background information not received, possible walk-up items. Steve?
So I did not receive it. The chief is still working on that item, so we're going to have to delay it for a month.
So do we need to make a motion to continue that? Or do
If we could, yeah. just
okay,
continue.
is anybody willing to make a motion to continue that?
I'll make a motion that we continue the application for 1 month.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, G, PKPHAM Incorporated doing business as the Nail Company to be located at 3706 Merrifield Drive South, and it's a Class CW license. C.
Yep. So I put the wrong address on the agenda. I have the right address on the form that goes to City Commission. The address I put on the agenda was the mail to address, not the business address. So the business address is actually 2911 45th Street South. So we're right on 45th and just south of the interstate, I believe. And so, let's see, the background check. There were no items of concern in the background check. The CW is a beer and wine license that does not require any food sales, and it does allow them to have a physical bar. In the setup that they have the liquor area separate from where the non-liquor area is. So a minor would be able to come in, get their hair cut in the front side, and then if somebody wanted to have, a beverage or something like that, they would have to go into that liquor area. So they have two separate areas within their footprint.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Commissioner, I have some comments, and maybe we'll create some questions. I have some concerns about the expansion of the non-traditional type licenses that we've seen over the years. And, one of the theories of liquor licenses with municipalities and states and even federally, et cetera, is that a liquor license is a privilege that is usually given to companies where a major portion of their business, if not all, comes from the sale of beverage alcohol. And one of the reasons for that is that they are in a position where if your major income is from beverage alcohol and you mess up, you're going to lose your business. You're eventually going to get closed down, et cetera. So now we've got a lot of places that want to add beverage alcohol on as a addendum, as a small part of their business. Steve, you often use the term, liquor license holders should have skin in the game. This is an inexpensive license to start serving wine, et cetera. It sounds like there's going to be no food served with that. That's something the city has worked with over the years, that on non-traditional A and B type licenses, that there's food served, and that's what created the F licenses, which I think has been successful for the city. There's going to be, I assume, nobody with experience serving alcohol. There's going to be no alcohol manager. I also think, I have this fear. I'm an old curmudgeon, I guess, but I have this fear that some little old lady's going to get her nails done, and she gets sold or given a glass of wine, and hops in her car 20 minutes later. And this is not a type of place that I think the police will be, keeping an eye on, et cetera, because it's a nail salon. I think this is a trend. I think it's going to expand. What if we end up with, this is a competitive advantage that these type of hairdressers and nail salons have added this. There has been, or might still be, hairdressers that give away free wine without a license, that they do that on their own risk, which I think is not a good business plan because of the liability. But that has happened in our city before. and it's a competitive advantage. So then the next person says, well, we have to do that. So are we going to end up with 20 nail salons in Fargo with these type of licenses? And then there's the what about? What if all the gyms say that too, and the workout places? Hey, wouldn't it be nice if our clientele, after they're done, can go have a couple beers? And again, they're not monitored and staffed like regular beverage alcohol companies, that's their living, and they take it very serious. So the expansion would be a concern. And then there's the whatabouts. What if grocery stores thought, hey, it'd be a nice idea if we had a wine license and we can serve wine while people shop in our grocery store? You know, there's an obvious motivation for that. I think that, you know, we have to look at that. What I would recommend is at some point the city commission has a discussion or a debate on this. To what extent do we want to allow add-on liquor licenses for non-traditional businesses? You know, it's easy to say, well, I think in their packet, they say they're going to only allow one glass of wine per customer. Well, that would be a responsible thing to do. And I'm sure these people applying for this are responsible people. I'm not criticizing them. I'm criticizing the idea. What has often happened, and I know there's places around the country that do these things, but in the competitive nature, a lot of times they go from charging for a glass of wine as a revenue add-on to giving that glass of wine or sending a coupon, say, come in and get your nails done here and you get a free glass of wine. And that is the start of a pandering of alcohol that, again, is done because they are relying on nail income. If you think about what's the license, 7,500 or something?
Total for beer and wine is 15,000.
Okay, so 15,000. So if you look at a business plan, they're going to have to sell, you know, 50, 60 drinks a day in the first year to amortize that license. And that tells you right there that this is more promotional than a true business venture to add profit to their business. And I think that alcohol is the wrong promotion for these type of businesses. So, you know, that's my thought, and I'd like to hear any disagreements. Like I said, I don't like being a curmudgeon on that, but I would make a motion that we refer this to the city commission to make a decision on issuing these type of licenses to, for lack of a better word, non-traditional beverage alcohol customers.
And if you're done, the one thing I will say is they do have to follow all the rules. If you get a license, then the police do monitor them. They go in and check, and we've had violations where, and the fine is the same no matter what size. So that does happen. But I think it's an excellent point that you made. The other thing, we're the recommending board. So if you have something that we can send it to the commission, I think we should maybe have a little more discussion about it, but we can do it here first and then recommend it to the city commission if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But your points are very well taken, and I do think you have to be careful what we're doing, but they're held to the same standards, all of our liquor license places. So I do think your point is a good one, and it's something we need to keep in mind. Any other comments from anybody?
And Commissioner, if I may.
Go ahead, Steve.
So with the CW, we do have a cap on them. We only, we were at our cap and we only increased 3. So, I don't think if we feel like it's starting to get to be runaway, we just say, we're not going to issue anymore. We're going to put a cap on them. So, I think we've got controls in place there too. If, and then some of the other comments too, our ordinance do not allow alcohol within 100 yards of, or feet, I'm getting confused, of a grocery store or a gas station, different things like that. So, as far as getting a glass of wine and wandering through the aisles at the grocery store, that's not going to happen. So, there are those that argue that this is an amenity that, larger cities are seeing, it trends, like you said, but it's not up to me to make a recommendation. So,
Steve, I got a question you
Yep.
may not be able to answer, but does West Fargo, I know there's some places where you guys can get their haircuts and get a beer. Is that a West Fargo business or is that a Fargo business that we gave approval to? I don't remember.
Well, I'm not sure about West Fargo. We have given approval to a few. 4050 was one we did a few months ago. It's a upscale lounge where you can get a beer. I think it's, oh, I get these two mixed up. There's Men's Hair World and Men's Hair Company or something like that. And one of them has an alcohol license, just a C license where you can get a beer. And to my knowledge, what they're doing is just giving it. They're not selling it, and then that way they limit it to the number that a person can have. So,
Could I ask you for a favor, Steve? If you don't mind, it would be kind of interesting. We have a few of these licenses where we have the number capped. If maybe not at the next meeting, but at some time, would you kind of give us like a census of where we're sitting with the number of licenses, how many we're at? If you don't mind doing that, I think that'd be good to refresh all of our memories as to kind of where we're sitting, if that's okay with you, and maybe a little description.
And-
Go ahead, Bob.
well, and then to go along with that, I'll try to pick out the ones that are kind of the non-traditional, so that you can get a better idea of where we're sitting with that.
That'd be great.
Well, and just as a reminder, Commissioner, these licenses originally, Steve came up with the point that he's getting a lot of requests and new business ideas with this. And he wanted us to approve 10 new wine and 10 new beer licenses. And we said, no, let's look at these one at a time, which I think this is, that makes me feel better about this process. But, I just say it just seems like we end up rubber stamping a lot of this. And, we're North Dakota, 99% of these people are good actors. But I agree that they are responsible to all the same rules, but I don't think they're going to have the same seriousness, human nature about this that somebody who, has an FA license or a B license or et cetera, or A license, that's their business, that's their career. They have a lot at stake if they mess up, if they give somebody one too many drinks, et cetera. So,
I totally agree, and that's a great point, and it's something I think we need to keep in mind but this happened with hotels. We were having manager specials, and then it kind of got into a competition, and then it ended up growing and growing. So it's just something I think that's part of our responsibility. We need to monitor it, and then on top of that, they are getting checked, and they have to follow all the same rules. And that business, they're at risk of losing their license too if they do something. So they do have something at risk too. So it's a good point. Any other? Go ahead, Tatiana.
I will say I view it a little bit differently in that it's more of a social activity, getting your nails done with your friends or family. I know there is at least one place in West Fargo that I've gone to with my mom, and we've had a mimosa there, for example, because they have a license. And so I think of it more similarly to like an axe throwing or golfing, where maybe it's a bit different in what you would anticipate, but it's a social activity nonetheless. And so that casual glass of wine, I've never personally seen anyone leave drunk from the nail salon or overserved or anything like that. So it's not a big concern for me based off my personal experience and how I view that. It's more of a social activity. Understood your point, but that's my perspective on that.
Any other comments or questions? I think that was good conversation, but so now we're on this one, and so if anybody's willing to make a motion?
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
no,
Motion carries 4-1. And so we're on to H, Himalayan Yak, Class GH, manager change only. Steve?
So this is pretty much just for your information. As we had stated previously, we're taking our managers that we had in place as of June 30th, and this application was received prior to that. And those people are grandfathered on our future license renewals, and we're going to talk more about that a little later. But anyway, so we did this manager change for Himalayan Yak, and it's just there really wasn't anything of concern on here, so it does have the chief's recommendation of approval. And this is one item then that would not, it's not my intention to bring it to the city commission. It would just be for your information at this level.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments or questions about this? Otherwise, if we're ready to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3 is the Police Department monthly report and general report with Chief.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just the 2 items to point out to you. We didn't have our June meeting, so going back to May 5th, there's a potential over-serving issue that we're following up on from Duffy's. I have to work a little more with the city attorney on that one. There's a related criminal case, so we may bring that back next month. And then back on June 19th, another situation at Fort Knox that we're looking into as well relative to potential over-serving. So as I get more information, I'll talk with Stephen, the city attorney, and potentially bring those forward. And then unless you have any other questions, nothing else of interest that caught my eye.
Does anybody have any questions? So if you don't mind, Chief, I'll just throw one topic out there. So, when we have a 2 o'clock closing time, it just seems like that time, then kind of everybody is pushed out at the same time. Is there any, and this is something more for everybody to think about, is there a way that would help disperse it more slowly? Or is there something we could do? I don't know if that, and maybe that's not an issue, but it's just something I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, for our downtown specifically, because of the close quarters. I don't have a great answer for that. I think it is a concern because there's an hour and a half period of time where it's pretty congested, it's tight, and I don't know how we would do that. I can ask some of my other colleagues as well if there's something in effect in other locations. Maybe Steve can check as well. And I'm not aware of a way to do that that would be, I guess, considered fair by the owners and enforceable and things of that nature, but we can look into it.
I was just going to
Go
make
ahead,
a
John.
comment. The thought of staggering at a 1 o'clock, 1:30, and a 2 o'clock, 1:30 each. But when Minnesota went to 2 o'clock and Fargo closed at 1 o'clock, guess where everybody went?
Right.
They went to the bars closing at 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as much as you'd like to think that logic would play out, I don't know that it would follow through.
That's a good point. It's just an item for, sorry for throwing that out there, Chief, but it's just like a discussion thing. And I guess in my mind, obviously I know from our perspective, you have to stop serving, but if there was a way, and the other thing is then most businesses, they don't want to keep paying their employees when they're closed. And so that's the challenge. But in my mind, what I've seen is there's all the different groups get pushed out at once. And especially in the summertime, then everybody is kind of in the same area, like you said, especially downtown. And so if anybody has any solutions, it's just something to think about.
Yeah, really the only thing we've been able to try out is the creating those rideshare locations.
Yep.
Just to try and get people dispersed a bit. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Very good. We'll move on to the next item, and that is 4A, discuss regarding Board Member Stibbe's proposal to waive compliance failure penalty if licensee agrees to use a city-provided ID scanner for 6 months. And John, if you want to get us started, or Steve, whichever.
Well,
one.
at the last meeting, Board Member Stibbe asked was questioning whether or not he could, put forth a motion or something at the meeting. And since it hadn't been on the agenda, it's not allowed by Robert's Rules of Order. So bringing it back this time, and, John, maybe you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I think it had to do with the Faux Delicious situation where they were asking for, some kind of relief on the fine and small business, big fine. It was like, isn't there a way we can do this? So I had thought that we have these scanners that we have. And it seems to me like we are all, as a group, kind of pushing for everybody to have the high-quality scanner that we want, which would eliminate a lot of our underage drinking problems. And so if you got a small business or any business, it's like, hey, I don't want to pay that. Is it $500? Is that what the fine was? Or
Correct.
1,000?
Yep,
Okay.
500.
Instead of paying the $500, I will be happy to use the scanner for 6 months, give you a weekly report, monthly report, whatever we can get for data off of those scanners, and then waive the fine, and after 6 months, they can return it or they can keep it if it seems to be improving their business. So you need me to make a motion then, or what?
I think we'll have some discussion first, if that's okay. And I guess my question is for our city attorney, is that something that you have to look into first? Because that's the main thing. You want.
Yeah, I mean, my motion would be to request that they check the ordinance or an amendment to the ordinance.
okay.
To have the option to have the 6-month scanner versus the $500 fine.
Okay, so that's my question. Then Nancy, I don't mean to put you on the spot, because if you need some time to, that's fine too. So go ahead.
And the answer is yes, we would need some time to do that, but if that is the recommendation of the Liquor Control Board, it would go up to City Commission for direction back to us to try to work with that direction generally and see what we can come up with, working with staff and probably the police.
Very good. That's great. So any other comments or questions? So if I'll just summarize it, then John, your motion is to
I'd make a motion to recommend to the city council that they, commission that they review the option of amending the ordinance or creating a new ordinance where a city-issued ID scanner could be used in order to relieve the $500 fine. And they can then do what they need to do to have somebody look at it and then have us look at it again.
Very good.
Yeah, I think we've been floating this around for
Yep.
a while now, and it's time to get started drafting it so we can at least talk about it, get some input from establishment owners on whether this would be a good thing for them. So I'm in support of this.
Are you willing to second the motion?
I sure am.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? So I would say, and maybe sometime we could have an update, the people that I've talked to that are using the scanners, they're fair. I don't know if that's a correct summary to say they're satisfied, they are doing a good job, they're pleased with how they work. And so I think from that perspective, I'd like to have a few more people using them just so we can get a little better feel for how well they're working. So any other comments?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to get some out so we get more data on how it's working, but I think there's a finance part of this too. These machines are expensive. If we end up with 30 people that say, I'll take one to avoid a fine, that would be a lot of money.
Good problem, too.
That'd be a good problem. And Steve, I don't know how many we have available, but it'd be good to know how many we have. I think that'd be good. So that could be a question for another day too, if that's okay.
Yeah, so we work with Fargo County Public Health to place these in facilities. And I don't know how many Robin Litke can get her hands on, but we'll take this, your motion to City Commission to direct Nancy to prepare an ordinance. Once she gets that ordinance in place, we'll bring it back here for your review.
What's the financial, like if I wanted to get a scanner, what does that cost me?
It was like about 6,000.
Okay,
So it was.
they're expensive.
Yeah, that forensic scanner that they demonstrated here in front of this group, it is expensive, but it's also one of the ones that actually does catch, rather than just scanning your ID and it telling you, yep, that ID says that you're of age. This one actually does more diagnostics on it, and so
How many do we have out that the city owns?
that I'd have to ask.
You're going to check on that? Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to ask Robin about that, but I think she's got 4 or 5 out now, maybe more. But
Okay, any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And next is 4B, the compliance failure for VFW first. Steve.
well, and just to tag right along with what John was talking about, Fargo County Public Health did a compliance check, and they ended up with 2 failures: the VFW and Front Street Tap Room. And I'm not sure if anybody is here from either of those organizations. But this is their time to, appeal to this board.
If there's anybody from the VFW or Front Street Tap Room and wants to speak, you're welcome to come up. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
It would just be a motion to uphold the ordinance and the penalties that are in existence.
I'm sorry, the motion would be to find the violation.
Okay. Like Nancy said, a motion to find violation.
Very good. Do we have anyone willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, and so can that be for both of them, Steve, or?
Yeah.
do you-
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's for both of them, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other further discussion?
I will just comment that I ran into Aaron Templin from the Front Street Tap Room, and he was actually the one that did the service of the alcohol. He said it just, the officer came in with a minor that was with them. The officer ordered a beer, and he just looked at the minor and said, "What can I get you?" Went and got the beers, brought them back, and so it just was that quick. And he said he knows better. And anyway, he wasn't not surprised he's not here. He wasn't planning on appealing it. He knows he goofed up. So
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And C, server training failures.
yeah. So I think I reported a while back the results of the server training audit. So we engaged Brady Martz to do a compliance check of server training to make sure that that our businesses are following the ordinance with that. And so notices were sent out late last fall, and the Brady Martz picked a date of they were going to check for your compliance on as of October 24th, 2023. And so they came back with 29 businesses that 100% passed the compliance audit. Everybody had all their training. And then that left 41 out of the 70 that they tested that did not fully comply. Since I sent out my notices about this date and this, not hearing, but the compliance failure, I did hear back from, I'm going to go with about 12 to 15 of the businesses that were able to provide me supplemental information. And we didn't ask for the auditors to do, but in all of those cases, and I don't know if you've got the sheet in front of you here with the highlights. Okay. So for instance, the Auger Inn, they had two people listed. One of them, they said, was not in compliance, and the other was in compliance. Well, it turns out the person got married and changed their name. And so it ended up being the same person. So that makes them, that gets them in compliance. The rest of the people under that column provided documentation that showed that either the people were not hired as of the 24th or were not in the stream of service. So maybe they were in administration or they were a busboy or something like that. So I'm not 100% sure that everybody understood. The letter was clear that it was supposed to be people in stream of service, but sometimes people don't totally understand. So then when we move over to there's two other columns left. The last column were businesses that provided no information. And so at this point, I think we just have to call those failures. The one before that, which a lot of the individuals you see here, the one with the highlights, everybody that has highlights, if they had somebody that wasn't trained as of the 24th, they got their training then within the next month. So by the end of the of November, they became trained. And you can see some of them, El Zagel, for instance, 6 of 7 trained. And I know that the gentleman is here from El Zagel, and the one person, he had a 5-day lapse on his training. He had a previous training card. There was a 5-day lapse, and then he got trained again. So there are things like that. Granite City, 52 of 55 trained. So, and now everybody is trained. And the ones that aren't highlighted in that section, are businesses that have not gotten everybody trained, even as of this date, to the records that I have. So I don't know how many people are here to explain their situation, but that's where we're at. This is a time for a compliance hearing, I guess.
And can I just add, Steve? So on its face, it looks like we have a lot that are non-compliant, but there's more to it, because this was our, we're trying to have 100% compliance. That's our goal. And this was our way to try to increase this, correct? And so I would look at this as this is our first time we've done it this way. And so I think there was a learning curve from us and from everybody in the industry. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Especially the statement of this is the first time of us doing it this way. We switched from the city providing the server training to online server training. And so that online server training, now we had to find a way to test that and see, are they doing it? And so, in the past, when we had license renewal, we were holding 4 and 5 sessions of server training a day leading up to license renewal, and so basically everybody was getting their people server trained right at license renewal. And so generally speaking, when I look at this list, I'm fairly pleased with a lot of this. There's some people that, we're kind of missing things, but a lot of them, FM Redhawks had 60 of 62 server trained, and at the time that they did this test, they're not open. So really, the 2 people that hadn't had their training weren't serving anyway. So, I mean, to me, it just seems like, I would like to see a little bit of lenience, I guess, if we could. I don't know what's allowed as far as our ordinance and that type of thing, but, the ones that aren't trained have like 1 of 9 or 5 of 14. There's a lot more. You know what I mean? It's that they just really weren't getting that done.
Well, and the other thing I would say is we have to take more of a long view, because this is our goal. Our number was lower, and so this has been our effort to try to increase it. The other thing it's done is it's taken quite a bit of the load off of our city staff, which is a good thing. It gives them more time to do other more constructive things, and so this puts the onus on all the liquor license holders. And so we anticipated that this was going to take a while to implement, and so I would say this has been good. And I guess my perspective is I think we need to be patient, and we need to take the long view of it. In a year or two, everyone will know what the expectations are, and it's on them. And that they have to do it, and especially now, especially when you can do it at any time, it's a lot easier to do that. So if that makes sense.
There are some businesses, on the list here. Happy Harry's has three locations, 100% server trained in each one. I think it's a matter of getting that organizational set up so that that, okay, when they come on board, they're filling out their I-9s, they're getting their all of their information that we need to be able to pay them, and now we're going to server train them, and then to have the organizational skills so that you have your everything right in a binder and it's just all ready to go. So.
And I do think part of it is you have to get that that's just part of your process when you hire a new employee. And I'm not surprised. I think that does take time. And so and obviously some businesses were on top of it and some weren't. And so I think the main thing is we want to make the flip side is if we let everybody not get penalized, then we're not setting a good precedent either. I guess that's the only conflict I have for everybody.
So, and we still have 10 that in my, according to the records that I have, did not get trained. So even after they got those notices, they didn't get out there and get it done. And so that's 10 out of 70. So I think we've got some work to do along that way.
So can I ask Steve, what would be your recommendation, especially for, like you said, the 10 that really did not get the message? What would you recommend?
I would recommend that we move forward with the finding that they were not compliant with server training and that they, move forward with the $500 administrative penalty.
Okay, is there any comments or questions?
Yeah, this
go-
is, I
talk,
think I
Jen.
missed it, Steve, sorry. So all the ones that are in yellow, they have been trained?
That is
at this
correct.
point. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And then the ones that aren't highlighted are the ones that still don't have people trained?
On the last two columns to the right, yeah.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to
And
make sure.
Commissioner, there may be people here that want to address the
No,
board
that's,
too.
and I guess to me, I wish we would give them one more chance. Is that not possible? Do you think we've given them enough chances, these 10? Because this is something we're doing new, and I agree. I mean, everybody has kind of gone along, but I guess that's my challenge.
Well, the comment I would like to make is I'd like enough discretion that if they come forward with additional documentation that shows that they have met the server training, that you would allow me to say, okay, you're good. You don't need to face that administrative penalty. But again, there may be people that want to address the board too.
So if there's anybody here that wants to get up and talk, if you don't mind using that podium, go ahead right there. Just walk around, and then if you don't mind,
How are you?
just introduce yourself and then go ahead and make your comments.
Do I look important? I'm Dwayne Krim from Denville, New Jersey, now Fargo. I'm a transplant. How is everybody today? I was brought here to work for ADM out in Enderlin at the sunflower plant. Little did I know I was committing career suicide. My company got $1 million plus contract with my name on it, and then found a way to go way back down in there and take their football and go home because I don't work for Memphis, in a matter of speaking. You guys have a huge issue, gigantic. It's scary. What I hear here is scary. Take it from someone who's sober, 2 years and change, all right? I'm nervous. Just give me a second. I'm about to sign on maybe with the Fargo police. I don't know my best option after sitting in this room. You need a task force. And that could be one guy. This scanner you're talking about is reading a barcode full of information. If you get into forensics and whatever you're talking about, you're opening this city up for a whole lot of stuff you don't need. As far as we had the scanner, the serve safe and all that. No, in-house wherever it can be, all day long, 24/7 if you have to. Why is it if I cut my finger at ADM or Cargill or anywhere else, I got to go home for the day and think about what I did? If you get a near miss at Fargo Airport and you're an ATC guy, you're out for about a month while you evaluate your mental health. Why are we pulling a woman out of our river who might have committed suicide, gentlemen? Now, that starts in a bar. It starts in a bar. I'll guarantee you my next paycheck, wherever it may be, that woman contemplated something if she committed suicide. I have the answer to all your problems. It just takes a little working out. I don't want you guys to become New Jersey. I came here to run from New Jersey. And here we are, about to have mini Minneapolis right in front of our faces. We got to fill these cracks right now.
That's great. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
We appreciate it. Next person up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Dave, how you doing? Commissioner Pepcorn, members of the Liquor Board. I unfortunately represent a fact that we are on your list. I'm on behalf of El Zago Shriners. I'm a board member there. I was just made aware of a conversation that and an audit just a week and a half ago at one of our board meetings that Steve has been in touch with, that we failed an audit regarding one of our servers. We ended up with 6 of 7, and it was a period from October 24th to October 29th. So yes, we were not compliant. Asking for a little leniency here on this, as he is compliant. And Steve, on behalf, as we talked a little earlier, Patricia, who you were working with as our bar manager / events coordinator, she has retired about a week and a half ago. So we're in the process of getting a new bar manager. And this, the bar is under my portfolio and my watch at El Zago, and I was just made aware of it. So that $500 fine is kind of scary, and we don't want to be non-compliant, you know. We're not a big bar. We're just a small bar up in North Fargo.
Yep.
And whatever I can do to ask for forgiveness or maybe ask you guys to reconsider that $500 fine against us is why I'm here, so I can report back to our board.
So can I ask you, Bruce, so now whenever you hire somebody to work in the bar, you have to make sure that you go through this process. You know that, correct?
I do, and that is our bar manager. It's actually we're going to the bar manager.
Okay.
That's one of the things that we're asking them to maintain and take care of.
And so, and Steve, from our perspective, that's what we want to hear, and so you're responsible to make sure that they do that. And that's what we're trying to achieve. That's the main thing. And Steve, I don't know if you have anything to add, Steve, because it looked to me like they were one of the ones that was highlighted that they're now in compliance.
They are, yes.
Okay.
It was, as he said, it was just 2 days or 3 days after,
Yeah.
or just a couple days after the expiration of his other license that he got his server training renewed. So, they are compliant now.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. So thanks, Bruce. I appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to get up and talk? Come on up, and if you don't mind introducing yourself, we'd appreciate that.
Good afternoon, I'm Ted Merrill. I am the Assistant General Manager at Crooked Pint. And as with El Zago, we are also on the list. We had several people they missed their deadlines. Everyone we have now is in compliance. One of our people was not actually in the state at that time, so he wasn't under the guidelines. He was working for a different company at that time. When he came back, he immediately got his server training taken care of. So with that, we are in the process, since we are the only Crooked Pint in the North Dakota area now, we are working with the actual corporate in Minneapolis to put into policy of having as part of training. So when they do orientation or before they can be on the floor, we are not going to allow people to start training until they have their server trainer card or they're within compliance.
I appreciate that. And I do think we realize, you have turnover in your business just like everyone, and it's a challenge. That's part of it. But I think what we're trying, and this is not how we did it in the past, to have it be online and available all the time. And so I do think we're kind of learning as we're going as well. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So if there are any other comments or questions, come on up.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. My name is Michael Ingebretson. I'm here from the Blarney Stone Pub in downtown Fargo. Unfortunately, as well, we are on the list. We've been open about a year and a half, and even though it's as a company, it's our fourth store. Still throughout the first year, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of new people. When we first opened, we made sure everyone had their cards, and that was getting at the very end of in-house training.
Right.
So when we opened, we had everybody doing it. And over the course of that 6 months, those hires that we had added, it was tough to stay up on that. Last fall then, and then I took over as general manager in June. So then part of learning my new role as well and navigating the first year, we did get contacted in October from that Brady Mart's office. And we had set, when I talked to the gentleman, we had set a date of November 6th to meet. So I guess it was my understanding that I had until November 6th to make sure that those people were in compliance. So if you do see, a lot of my people got done right at the end of October, or, like even up to, Sunday the 5th. And that's because when they were scheduled, then I would not allow them to work. We set up the laptop and they had to do it before they hit the floor. I have noticed I have one person whose dates are they're wrong, and it shows that they weren't in compliance till December. But I have had the card, and we turned in copies of everybody's cards at the time as well. So I'm not sure if it's just a clerical error on that one, but I do have one that said December that is wrong, and I have that with me as well. But we have always taken this seriously as a company. Since the first store opened in 2008, we've had a part of our training called the Responsible Beverage Program. We have always done this as part of, we do a 4-day classroom training session, learning our menus and drinks, as well as a whole packet on responsible beverage training. So we have always taken that seriously, wanting people to know about IDs as well as the effects of alcohol and how to correctly identify those things, how to deal with those as well. So I have a pretty large staff. There's about 50 of us total. Some of that's behind back of house and not the service role. But since then, we have instituted part of this training class that we've always done, not only our responsible beverage manual, but if they haven't had the card, operationally, we had a few issues right off the bat, because I don't know if anyone here has tried to do the website. It's terrible. The website is not user-friendly at all, and it's very difficult. So I've had at first people during that training week try to do it at home. It does cost them $20. They're aware of that cost. But they're all calling me, asking me how to navigate the website. I don't have any instructions on all we get is a link to the website, and it doesn't even actually take you to the test. Okay. So operationally, it is very difficult. So then, I had to, and my managers, learn how to navigate it. And then we do literally sit them down, because there's lots of issues. Or it has you make a profile, but then it says that you have to be manually approved for the profile, which can take, it says, up to a day. So if I'm planning this out as a training course and I want them to do it Wednesday, they can't even do it Wednesday because their profile's not even. Okay. So then we've learned to navigate past that by making them a visitor. But my point is, we're really trying to help navigate this, and it hasn't been easy for us to learn, but I've had to take the time and the energy to train my management and then to trickle down to train them. So we've had to learn how to navigate the website with very, very few direction and how to do it. But my point is, now going forward, we've instituted as part of our training. And, by the end of training class, we do have them sit down and become compliant.
So I appreciate your comments, and Steve, I hope we can hopefully try to address some of those things if possible, because I think if there's challenges, then you're not the only ones experiencing that. So can I ask you, in the past, obviously we did the training, would you say the online is it's going to be better down the road, or from your perspective?
That's a great question. At first, I didn't like it because of those issues, but getting to get everyone signed up for the classes at times too was a tall task, in the old sense. I had worked for the West Fargo location, and then I was down in Sioux Falls. But I remember back in West Fargo, it was always, we always had a list of people up to try to get the class. Here's the dates. So you had to hound them for that as well. So I think over the course of time, if we could work those bugs out or get a simple, list of instructions or a troubleshooting or some more help on that front, then it'll be a lot easier, and then it'll be really, it will be easy for us to stay compliant.
Right. Okay, I appreciate that. And so if you don't mind, so first of all, we have these comments, so we'll try to address those, the things that you're encountering, if we can do that, Steve, because obviously it's not us doing some of this, but we can pass it on to see if they can make those a little bit easier, because that's the main thing. You want it to be easier for everybody to use. So
it's the website is run by the North Dakota Safety Council, right, and that's who we use. But I think the difficulty is everybody has to set up their own username and password and that type of stuff. And I remember that being a little bit confusing, I guess, and then waiting for the authentication email to come back and all that kind of stuff. So
I do appreciate your comments, and we will try to pass on and have them to make it whatever we can do to make it easier for you. So I appreciate that. So, yep, you bet. And obviously, with that many employees, that's just a challenge. That's just a lot to keep track of. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we're ready. So Steve, I guess my question is, I know you made a motion, kind of, you wanted to have some flexibility for these 10, and maybe if you could repeat that again for us, just to refresh our memory.
Well, to me, I see 10 that have made very little effort to be compliant, and so I'd like to move forward with those as a first failure. But it's totally up to the board here what they want to do.
Any other comments? Or Tatiana, go ahead.
Yeah, I maybe a question for the city attorney, but I know with Faux Delicious, we talked about, can we be lenient with them? It sounds like people did come into compliance or have taken the steps they need to, but do we have the ability under the way the ordinance is phrased to be lenient, or do we need to impose the $500 fine?
Thank you for the question, and I was having the same thoughts and consternation. There really isn't a flexibility that's provided for in the ordinance. I think at this point, it's a finding of a violation. I think the question is, when do you find the violation? So I think if you're finding the violation as of today's date, then you would be able to address that there are just 10 that are non-compliant as of today's date.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I've got a comment, Commissioner. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I like your idea, Steve, that perhaps after the audit, you have some discretion, that maybe a note is sent out, say you're 2 people short. If you can get this done by whatever the reasonable time you think, they come off the list. My concern in glancing at this list, it looks like we've got some corporate places that aren't taking this very seriously. And, I can understand how that can happen because their master is living in some other state or whatever. So my opinion would be that some of these people should be fined. Some of them, if you have a relationship or they've reached out to you, I think it's reasonable for you to say, get this to me by next Wednesday or whatever you come up with and get them off the list.
But they would have to show that they were trained before today's date then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my thought.
So that's your motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And any further discussion? If we're ready for vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. That's everything on our agenda for today.
One
And
more thing.
Steve.
Yeah, just one more thing, just closing, and I appreciate your patience and a long agenda here today. I just wanted to give you a real brief update on our license renewal. We did select 49 licensees to do their renewal as a first quarter, or the new renewal, I guess. And so we asked them to get everything back to us by the end of this month, end of July, so that we can get it to PD and PD can do the background checks. At this point, we have 18 of those 49 turned in. And so we've been sending them off to PD so that they can get started on those background checks. So it seems to be going really well. I think that we haven't had a lot of questions about it. Hopefully we addressed it clear enough in our letter that they understand what we're doing here. So I know you're always concerned about staff and how the effect on staff. And so Angie and Michelle worked on splitting up the list. This first go around, the first quarter, we picked primarily local ownership with multiple licenses. And so that's kind of helps PD cut down on the number. The next series is going to be primarily corporate. So like Bob said, people that, Darden groups out of Philadelphia or something like that, those kind of groups. And then third, let's see. Well, I'm kind of forgetting right now exactly what those other two groups are, but we have them split up with 49 this time, 56 the next, 51, and then 57 that are going to stay on the June 30th renewal. So.
Anything else? Otherwise, thank everybody for coming. We are adjourned. Have a good afternoon.